The sweep mesh tool is a relatively new tool compared to other modeling tools in Maya, but it can be a really powerful tool when you want to create curved surfaces, create wires or tubes or any other object that has a lot of curvature to it. Before we start using the sweep mesh tool, we need to create our curve. I'm going to click on the spacebar and go to the front view by clicking on the spacebar again. Go to create curve tools and EP curve tool. I just prefer this because it's a more organic tool, and I'm just going to draw some sort of spiral shape, and I click on enter to lock in that curve, and I'm going to go to control vertex and maybe select these vertices. So these control vertices work very similar to mesh vertices. You can just select them as you would. You can select multiple at the same time, and these will just help you control the shape of that curve. So I did that. It's pretty much what I want it to be. And then I go back to the perspective view by spacebar and hovering over spacebar again. So now with this curve selected, I'm going to go to create and sweep mesh. That'll create a mesh over this curve. So you have the curve still in the outliner and you have sweep one, which is this mesh. Now you can also still control the shape of this mesh with the curve. So if I right click, go to control vertex, I can control the shape. So I can still control this. This will be able to be controlled until you delete the history of the mesh. So now let's go into our sweep mesh and see what options we have to edit this. I'm going to click on this, and in the attribute editor, so that's on the right here, you can see sweep mesh creator 1. I'm going to go to the very top, so you can see by default the type that you have is a circle. You can change it, you can make it to whatever object you want it to be. So if you don't really want it to be a tube, you want it to be a different object. I don't know what this is, but you can change that. You can change the radius, so basically it's going to be whatever shape you want. You can also change the shape. You can make it a rectangular pipe, you can make it an arc, wave. So there's a bunch of shapes here. This is really useful. You can also create your own custom shape. For now, I'm going to leave it on poly, which is the default. So I'm going to just set it to this and set it to circle. So this is what you'll be doing when you're in a beginner modeling class. This is what you'll be using most of the time. I'm also going to set the sides back to 8. And let's scroll down in this menu to see what else you have to edit to get a good result from this. So I'm going to go down to interpolation and change the mode here to EP to EP. I just prefer this because it gives me a much smoother result that matches the curve the best. And then I can scroll up to transformation, and I can scale this to whatever size I want it to be. That is useful. You want a thicker curve, you want something that's really thin, like a rope. You can change that size over here. You can also just type in any number in here and it will enter that number. I think these values only go to 5. So if I type 6, oh, it goes beyond. So you can type basically any number that you would like and it'll scale it to that size. I'm going to leave this at 1, maybe reduce that a bit and leave it at that. You can also taper it. So if you want the top to be thinner and the bottom to be thicker, you can click on the taper and kind of taper it out. So by default, the taper just goes from thin to thick. But if you go down to taper curve and edit that curve, so you can kind of edit where it's thinner and where it's thicker. So you can have it be a little thinner from the sides, and let's click on the center here and you can add some thickness at the center. So the taper curve is really nice, and if you want to get rid of this, you can just double click over here wherever you added this Should be able to double click, actually single click. So just single click on this and it should get rid of it. So let's leave this on the top and let's take a look at some other options. I use the taper pretty often because whenever you have curves, you don't want it all to be exactly the same size. But now let's look at an option that lets us create something like rope, for example, or tangled wires. If you go to distribution and you click on distribute, you can kind of get multiple meshes and you still are working with just this curve. So you can get multiple meshes, and for now they're just kind of straight out. You don't have any twisting among them, but you can scale them. So you have instances, which are basically the number of meshes that you have. I'm going to set that to 4 and then scale them up so they're all kind of touching each other, and then you can go to your taper, back to your taper, make sure that's set to 1, so there's no curve, and then make sure it's set to 1 so it's equal from all sides. And then you can go to the twist and twist this rope. So this only goes up to 2, but you can always type in a number. So let's say we type in 10. You can twist this rope as much as you want. This is not the best way to create rope, but it's a really quick way and you get pretty good results, especially if the rope is far away, you're not going to take a good look at it. You can also increase the interpolation. So if you increase steps here and set that to a higher number, you can kind of twist this rope some more because there are more polygons to work with. So now you have this rope, and you can also again scale this. You can scale the instances if you'd like to, so you can make them a little thicker depending on what kind of rope you have, and you can rotate them. So there's a bunch of options. If you change how the instances are distributed, you get different results with your rope. So this is a more interesting rope that you have. There are a lot of things you can do with this tool. I don't think I have explored all of them, but if you just go through the tool options, look at all the shapes that you have, and kind of explore each aspect of it, there's a lot that you can do. You can also play around with the alignment. So I just go to alignment, click on align, and you can change the way that this mesh kind of interacts with the curve. So instead of following the curve exactly, it's kind of going to form a different shape altogether. So you can also change how those settings work. So you see I changed the horizontal offset, I changed from where it's offsetting, and you can get some really fun shapes with this.